Here we go. I want to introduce you to your new best friend. And we call your new best friend the box. So here's what's happening. We're going to use this shape to help us do all kinds of math. And what I love about this shape is that it helps organize you and it helps let you think about things. So in order to do this, I actually need to start back at 3rd grade, if you don't mind. So we're going to go back to 3rd grade and we're going to talk about 2 times 3. So you guys all know this is 6. I hope you know this is 6. But anyway, 2 times 3. Now what you used to do in elementary and 3rd grade especially is you would do something called an array. And you would set up this box and you would say, well, if I make it to be a 2 by 3 box, then if I count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I know that 2 times 3 is 6 because my box is made out of something that's 2 long and 3 wide, and the answer to multiplication is how many squares I have in there, because what's happening with multiplication is I have a group of 3 here and I have another group of 3 here. So I have 2 groups of 3, and that's what multiplication means, is how many groups of. So I have 2 groups of 3, and so my array is 3 squares in one row, 3 squares in another row. I've got 2 groups of 3, which is 6. And so we can actually take this and do some really cool stuff with that. So I have 2 times 3 is 6. I could do a really cool one. I could do 12 times 61. So if I do that, I can set up my box. Now we could be as boring as saying 12 and 61 here and then actually figuring out that, but that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of the box is to say, let's decompose 12 and 61. I'm going to make 12 into 10 plus 2, because that's still 12. And then I make 61 into 60 plus 1. So I had to hit pause, sorry, I don't know where I left off as far as wording goes, but basically what we're doing is I'm trying to take 61 times 12, and I broke it up so that I can look at each part separately. And so then when I multiply, I'm just going to look at each box as if it's its own separate box. So if we look at this, here I have a box that is 60 by 10, and 60 by 10 means I'm going to take 60 times 10, and that's 600. Then I can go over here to this box, and this box has a length of 1 and a height of 10, and which gives me 10, because 10 times 1 is 10. On the bottom, I have 60 times 2, which is 120. And then on this last box, on this last box right here, it's a 1 by 2, so that last little box is 2. And remember when we went back over here, I would add up all these squares, and that's what my multiplication is? Well, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to add up all these squares, and that's what my multiplication is. So if I add them up, I've got 600 plus 120 plus 10 plus 2. And if I do that, I have 600 plus 100 is 700 and 32. And so 61 times 12 is 732. And what I like about that is it organized us, it let us think about one little thing at a time and then put it all together in the end. That is what we're going to do with polynomials, well, I guess you don't know about polynomials yet, but that's what we're going to do. Let's say I want to take 2 times x plus 4. So let's say that's the math I want to do. You guys are used to this. You're used to going like that, saying it's 2 times x is 2x plus 2 times 4 is 8. Well, that's all great, but look what I can do. I can take a box, I can say 2 on one side, and then x plus 4 on the other side, and then I split that up where one of the boxes is going to be x and the other box is going to be 4, and then this side over here is 2. So then the area of this box is going to be 2 times x, which is 2x, and the area of the next box is going to be 2 times 4, which is 8. And so then to figure out the answer of the multiplication, I add up all the boxes, 2x plus 8. And you see I get the same thing, it just was organized a little bit differently. So what, let's do another problem. It won't let me move, shoot. Okay, let me get a new slide. So I'm going to do another problem where let's say I have x times x minus 5. So I set up a box again. One side is going to be x and the other side is going to be x minus 5. Notice that I'm setting up the x minus 5 to be longer because I'm going to split that into two parts, x and minus 5. And so we have x times x is x squared, and x times 5 is minus 5x. And so then my answer is going to be the boxes added together, x squared minus 5x is my answer to that one. Now what's going to happen is I might get a little bit more complicated. Like let's say I want to take x plus 2 times x minus 4. Now another class might say that you're going to learn something about FOIL. And FOIL, it just stands for first, outside, inside, and last. So when we talk about first, we're talking about the first two things in the bubble, and we multiply them and we get x squared. And then when we do O, that means the outside stuff. When we're looking at these, we multiply those and we get minus 4x. And then we have I for the inside things that we're going to multiply together, and we get plus 2x. And then we have the two last things, and we multiply those together and we get minus 8. So we have x squared minus 2x minus 8. So there is our parabola, or oh my gosh, sorry guys, I'm getting tired I guess, but anyway, there is the thing that we multiply together, and we can graph this just like you would before, and we can graph those and get the parabola that you usually get. So on to our next slide. Our job on this now is we want to be able to graph these things. In order to graph them, I have to get it into the ax squared plus bx plus c that you're used to. So what I'm going to do, instead of doing that FOIL method that I talked about before, instead of doing that, I am going to create the box. Okay, now this box, on one side I'm going to be multiplying by x plus 3, and since I have two things, I'm going to split it down the middle there. So then that means that this side of the box is x long and this side is 3 long. And then I want to multiply by this other thing, so I'm going to split that up into x plus 5. Okay, so I split that up and I get x long here and 5 long there. And now if I want to multiply all these things together, instead of doing FOIL and worrying about which one did I do and did I miss any, now we just have to fill in the box and find the area of each section of the box. So in the top left, this one, I have this box right here. It is x long and x wide, so I multiply those, and x times x is x squared. And then for this box right here, it's 3 long and x wide, so I'm going to take 3 times x, I get 3x. For this one, I have a box that's 5 long and x wide, and so I get 5x. And then in this box right here, I'm going to have 5 long and 3 wide, and so I have 5 times 3 is 15. And so my answer is, what is all this stuff added together? So we get x squared plus, now you'll notice I have a 3x and a 5x. Those are like terms, so I can go ahead and add them together, 8x plus 15. And now I can graph that parabola using your negative b over 2a and so on. Okay, we move on down to our next problem. Here I have an interesting thing happening. I have these two things I'm going to multiply together. I'm going to use the box to do that. And then I have a negative that I have to multiply through. So first we're going to set up the box. So we have x plus 4 and x minus 9. Again, we'll start with the top left. X times x is x squared. Then I go to the next one and I get 4x. Move my way down, I get negative 9x. And then negative 9 times 4 is negative 36. So adding together everything in the box, I get x squared. My like terms, I have negative 9x and 4x. I get minus 5x. And then minus 36. But I'm not done because I still have that minus sign. And so I need to take all of this times the minus sign. So I get negative x squared plus 5x plus 36. and that will be the thing that I'm going to graph. Okay, another one. Now instead of a minus sign, I have a half. Again, I'm going to wait though. First, I'm going to get the box done and figure out what these two things are multiplied together. So I set up the box, x minus 6 for one of them, x minus 4 for another. You know, one of the questions I get too is, what if I put x minus 4 up here and x minus 6 here? That's okay, you're still going to get the same answer. It doesn't matter which side you put them on, there's nothing magic about what I picked. So now I fill it in. I've got x squared minus 6x minus 4x plus 24 equals, and then I have x squared minus 10x plus 24. And I also have a 1/2 out in front. So if I'm going to take then this whole thing and multiply it times 1/2. So I get 1/2 x squared minus, and then 1/2 times 10 is 5, so 5x plus, and then 1/2 of 24 is 12. So then that is my answer. All right, couple more. This one now, again, I'm going to take and do the bubbles first and multiply the bubbles together. Hopefully you guys are doing this without me and trying it by yourself and then pausing it while you do that and then seeing what I get. So we get x squared. Over here we get 1x minus 5x and then minus 5. So adding the squares together we get x squared minus 4x minus 5. But then I still have that negative 3, so I'm going to take this whole thing and multiply it times negative 3. So we get minus 3x squared plus 12x plus 15. Alright, let's change it up a little bit. I can hear you getting bored with me. So this one, you'll notice, has a little bit going on. We have the 3 in front. I only have one bubble, but it's being squared, and then I'm adding 8 at the end. Remember what squared means. It means this is my base, and I'm multiplying it times itself. So really, if I translate this, this is 3 times x minus 1 times x minus 1 again, plus 8. So the squared, I can't do this kind of thing. That would be so bad to do. Okay? What I have to do is I have to FOIL it out. If I did do this thing, and I have to erase it right away because I can't stand looking at it even, but if I did do that, I would totally miss out on the middle term, that x in the middle. It wouldn't be there because I'd just have x squared and then plus 1. I wouldn't have the middle term. So I have to write it out. I have to do the two bubbles, and I'm going to use the box to multiply the two bubbles. So we get x minus 1, x minus 1, and I multiply them out just like normal, x squared minus 1x minus 1x, and then plus 1 here. So we get x squared minus 2x plus 1. Now what I'm going to do then is I'm actually going to replace that. See, these things, that's what these things are. These are the same thing as this. So I'm going to replace them with my new quadratic. So I have 3 times, then I get x squared minus 2x plus 1, and then I have a plus 8 at the end. So I multiply through by 3. So I have 3x squared, just like what we've been doing, minus 6x plus 3. And then I have a plus 8 at the end. And as I put those together, I have 3x squared minus 6x plus 11. And there is the parabola that I can graph. So let's try one more of those. And maybe you guys want to try this without me and see if you can do this before I do it. Once again, I'm looking at, really I have 1/2, and then I have x plus 2 twice, because that's being squared, minus 3. So I'm going to use the box to do my x plus 2 times x plus 2. X squared, and then 2x, and then 2x, and then 4. So we have x squared plus 2x plus 2x is 4x plus 4. And so here I'm going to replace that with this once again. So I still have 1/2 times now x squared plus 4x plus 4 minus 3. And now I take that 1/2 times those three things, so I have 1/2 x squared plus 4 times 1/2 is 2x plus 4 times 1/2 is 2, and then we still have a minus 3, so then we have 1/2 x plus 2x minus 1. And there's our answer, and we can graph that parabola.